Welcome, everybody, to another week of Wealth Wisdom, where we're helping you build wealth and legacy.
Companies are like an organism trying to survive.
It's always a risk when you're investing in a company that's purely tied to someone's brand.
45% of Americans have gone into debt for a Disney trip. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Wealth Wisdom Show. I'm Justin, and with me is Bill and Eric, co-founders of Foxhill Wealth Management. Today, we have a great one of the most unexpected entrepreneurial journeys I've ever witnessed firsthand. Jon Mason, founder of Swing Juice, is with us today in the house. Really excited to have you here, Jon. Let me try my best at a quick intro and then without giving the whole story away.
Yeah.
But it's I was saying before, we go back a while, maybe 20 years.
Yeah, a long time.
And I think that's just, we'll get into that, but it's a sign of dedication and focus and commitment in the entrepreneurial journey you've had. But Swing Juice at that point was something completely different than what today, and completely different. So we'll get into that as well on the show. What happened between then and now involves, I think, in my opinion, a big pivot, a gutsy pivot, landing partnerships. Now you're working with the USGA, MLB Players Association, and building one of the most distinctive lifestyle brands in golf, all while staying true to the come as you are philosophy. That kind of challenges everything about work.
You're doing great so far. I'm going to have to bring you along everywhere I go.
There you go.
That's an intro, so thank you.
But hey, man, so today's going to be, for everyone listening right now, it's going to be an unfiltered story of Swing Juice and how it's become the incredible lifestyle apparel company it is today, swingjuice.com. The quick plug for you there. But big welcome to the show, Jon. Let's get into it.
Nah, thank you for having me, guys. Really appreciate the opportunity. Yeah. Looking forward to for chatting over a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna have the applause get dubbed in.
We can do that. We should start doing that.
Some confetti.
Yeah, confetti across the screen, like when you see the text now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. To do that. But guys, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you. So Swing Juice, when you and I met, it was an energy, but more like hydration energy beverage.
Yeah, the way when I originally came up with the idea, and again, I go back to the first thought of doing this was in July of 2003. And I really, at the time, I was working in real estate, and I've always been an idea guy. Just somebody that I've always been obsessed with marketing and what different companies were doing to bring products or services to the forefront. So it's just always something I'd been interested in. At that time, I was just starting to get into golf. I'd grown up playing all sports. I played baseball at Providence College. And then after college, I was done with baseball and was looking for something else to do. I tried to pick up basketball leagues and tried softball for a minute. Just nothing was doing it for me. So I got into golf, the crazy game of golf. So that was like the first obsession I had in my head. I was just constantly playing golf. And then it was really, again, always thinking about different ideas. How the original thought of Swing Juice came up at that time in 2003, me and a group of buddies, we would play golf all the time, 3 or 4 days a week. And one particular weekend, a friend called me and he's like, "Hey, you want to play on Saturday?" I'm like, "Sure, no problem." He's like, "Oh, we have like a 6:30 tee time." And I'm like, 6:30 tee time? It's a little early.
Whoa. Yeah.
On a Saturday, you go out Friday night. Like,
No way.
I don't really want to get up at 6:30 to play golf, but okay. He's like, "Oh, no big deal. We'll drink our Swing Juice and we'll be ready to go." I was like, "Huh, it's a cool name." He was referring to like a Coors Light or something.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, that's a cool name to for a product that you drink to get you going to a player. And again, my mind was golf at the time. Immediately, I was just obsessed with the idea of, wow, that would be a great name of a product for a brand, Swing Juice. So we played golf in the weekend and I came home from golf and. So I said to my girlfriend at the time, my now wife, I said, what would you think? I got an idea. What do you think about a product that's called Swing Juice and it's for golfers? It gets them going. I don't know what it's going to be, but what do you think? She's like, "Oh, that's actually a pretty good idea." Yeah. So I'm like, "All right, that's all I needed." So literally like 3 days later, that night I went on the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office website to see if anybody owned any
the name
trademark for the name Swing Juice, just to see what was out there. So I found one abandoned trademark at the time, and it was for, I even forget what it was for. Oh, it was for a beer, but it was from like 4 years ago, and nobody had done anything with it. So it was completely abandoned. It was open. So I said, okay, let me apply for a trademark. Because again, so in my mind, I was obsessed at the time with Red Bull and vitamin water. I was obsessed with the fact that these two products came out of nowhere and were everywhere. Again, even still now, but like if you remember back then, vitamin water was everywhere.
So this is like 07, 08, right?
Correct.
So
Even before that, like 2003, 4, 5.
Oh shoot. Okay.
Think back, like Red Bull was everywhere. Like Red Bull street teams, and
I worked on one
everywhere.
of those street teams.
Yeah, exactly. So like I was just like I was fascinated by like this product Red Bull is one flavor, one product, and it was everywhere.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I was like energy drink. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. So I immediately applied for the trademark for the name Swing Juice. Then after that, I said, okay, I don't know what this is going to be, but I need a website. So I bought swingjuice.com and .org and all the dots at the time. And then finally I was like, okay, all right, I like this idea. Then fast forward, this was on a Saturday. Then come that Monday, I was like, what am I going to do with all this? Like, I don't know. I don't know how to make a drink. I don't know what to do with any of this. I think this is, I've figured out over the last 20 plus years, I have like this section of my brain that gets like hyper obsessed with something when I really like it. And I just go for it. I just dove in. So I said, all right, I know I want this to be a golf related energy drink, but I also wanted, I didn't like some of the after effects of like a Red Bull, not to throw Red Bull out there, but it's like that's what I was focusing on at the time. So the energy drink space was mainly geared towards like jack you up, to the point where you're shaking,
right? Yeah.
Right. And ingredients that you didn't know what they were. So I'm like, I don't really want that, but I do like vitamin water, and I was a big fan of Whole Foods. I shopped at Whole Foods. I lived in Brighton at the time. There's a Whole Foods down the street. I went there all the time. So I'm like, all right, I want this to be a natural energy drink. I just started to research, like, okay, what are these ingredients that are in these energy drinks? So again, I went to a Whole Foods, I went to a Stop and Shop, and I bought as many energy drinks as you could find that were on the market at the time. Again, all the top brands,
doing the research,
the top energy drinks, to everything down the list, to like vitamin water again was like sort of the pillar of that space, and then there was a bunch of other copycats. So I got them all, and I tasted them all. I had them all on the kitchen table, and I tasted them all, and I'm researching all the ingredients. So finally, I was like, okay, I understand. And this is over a course of like 6 months. I just was like researching the product. Like, okay, I want this to be this. This is what goes into this. How do you get this idea? How do you get it? How do you even get the liquid into a bottle? Yeah, I had to research that, like figure that out. Because again, it's not something everybody thinks about. Like you pull a bottle off a shelf, you have no idea it's like how the sausage is made.
How you get created,
you have no idea how that's made. 6-7 months of like research. I said, okay, I want my product to be this. I hand wrote the formula of what I wanted it to be, and then I said, okay, let's take the next step and see if we can make a sample. So fast forward to Justin meeting you, that sample was what you saw in that bottle. That was the process I went through to get that actual sample into the bottle. I found a lab that was actually based in Utah. They were one of the few labs that would work with me to do a small production run.
Again, which is hard to find. That's very hard.
Hard to find. So all beverage is predicated on volume. So the more you produce, the cheaper it is to make. Obviously, then you have to turn around and sell that. And the idea phase, I just wanted samples just to see if I could show some people to say, hey, this is the idea. This is what it actually is, versus just talking about it.
Mm-hmm. And John, were you very hyped during this time period, drinking all those energy drinks? And
and none of them helped my golf game, by the way. which I knew, to me, I was onto something, because I'm like, all right, these don't help my golf game. I'm bound to make something that's going to help my golf game.
Yeah.
So, I went through a whole energy drink.
You're going to say hype you up, but keep you
Exactly.
Keep you a little
That
tranquil.
was the idea. Hype you up enough to, but also keep you so you can maintain and not like lose your mind and go crazy.
Yeah.
So that was a long-winded story of saying right before I met you, Justin, I got through this whole process of getting this sample,
Yeah.
the product ideation into a bottle, and then the Swing Juice energy drink was born.
Yeah, and I remember those samples you had, and they're like highly coveted. I think you allowed me to have a taste, which is incredible. Just looking back, and since like we've lost touch and we recently reconnected, which is awesome. And knowing now what I know about Beverage, it's like there's a lot that goes into that, and that was hard for you to do that to get a co-packer and find those small sample run.
Yeah.
But I think it's also smart like to. And we can get into this to start with a small amount and just go and test and learn.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too was just based off of what like my personal capacity was at the time. Again, I was working full time. I didn't have a ton of money to invest in like an idea that really was like out of thin air. But I also I was also obsessed enough with the concept that I'm like, all right, I got to see if like I show it to a few people, or are they going to be, that's it.
Totally.
That's not going to work.
Were you doing any stuff like in the kitchen, like mixing flavors at all or anything like that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the first, I'd mentioned that company in Utah that I was able to contract with to make the first samples. So we were going through, once we agreed to do it, I told them the amount that I wanted. They said they could do a couple of cases. That cost a lot per unit, but at least I had samples that I could show to people. So they said, okay, what flavor do you want to start with? I'm like, all right, I don't know. Everybody likes lemonade, so let me start with lemonade. So they're like, okay, we're going to send you 50 samples of lemonade, different types of lemonade. I'm like, okay. So they literally sent like 50 different bottles, flavor profiles of lemonade. And again, you don't realize how different, one flavor can be across the spectrum. How you taste lemonade is different how I taste it.
Oh yeah.
How whoever you're with tastes it, and I literally went through that process. So my wife and I, we literally laid the bottles out. We had like little sample cups. Sample one. Do you like this one? That's too sweet. Okay, let's put that. Sample two. Oh, that's too bitter. Put that away. And finally, we're able to narrow it down to like 3 or 4, and then we just picked one. Which ended up being the first flavor of Swing Juice, the beverage, lemonade.
Okay, so then Swing Juice happens. That's like you're saying 04, 05, if I'm right, and then you take a crack at breaking into the beverage space. And I'm fast forwarding a lot because my fascination I want to get to is like the pivot into where you are today is golf apparel. Really owning that space or making a big dent into that space. So like that's 2014, I believe, if I did the research right. So you pivot in 14. How did you know that was the right decision at that time? Because it's a big pivot.
Yeah. It's interesting. So I did the beverage portion of the Swing Juice evolution for 10 years. So literally 2003 was the idea. First samples 2004. From 2004 to 2013, 14, it was selling the product throughout New England. I think at the height it had about 300 accounts. Whole Foods was one of my accounts. That was like a real big want and get for me. We had a number of golf courses in the region. A lot of local here in Rhode Island, like Dave's Marketplace in Rhode Island, a lot of like Shell gas station type convenience stores. I was running myself ragged all over New England, just trying to get shelf space. And throughout that whole process, I realized really quickly that you can only take it so far. You're dealing with the vitamin waters, the Red Bulls, the Gatorades, and they all purchase the shelf space. And I'll go to a store on a Monday. I'll come back the following Monday because again, it was basically just me doing this. And I'd come back on the Monday, and my product is off the shelf. It's in the back cooler, and Gatorade is just put, 10
all the best
facing
distribution channels, right?
Right. It just was like a losing battle. So I think the one point where I realized this beverage, it really isn't going to be what I quite want it to be. I had a co-packer at the time in New Jersey. It was right. So obviously the summer is in New England. It's a big season for beverage. I had a co-packer in New Jersey, so I had a run scheduled that would take me through the summer. I go down there. We're ready for the run. I literally get in the facility, and he's like, "John, I got to bump you to next week. Vitamin Water is
Oh
running.
my God.
They just came in. They called me the other day. They want to run, and they're like one of my top clients. I'm like, come on. Like, again, I
Yeah.
drove all the way down there, had already paid, but the whole thing. And I was not heated, but I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I'm like, what happens if I come back next week and you bump me for the following? He's like, listen, John, you're good for next week. I just can't do it today. He goes, listen, Vitamin Water is one of my big clients. He's like, John, they're going to spill more in an hour than you're going to sell in the next couple of years. So I was kind of like,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
That was like
That's
a
a blow.
moment where I look at him, I'm like, okay, yeah, he's actually 1,000% correct. Yeah. So like on my drive back, I'm like thinking about it, and I'm like, I can see the writing on the wall. It's just, again, Beverage as a small independent brand, unless you have really robust backing or some sort of resources to help you like spread out and expand, it's just really tough. You're going against 800-pound gorilla every
I
single
think it's
day.
one of the hardest businesses to succeed in.
Yeah, it's just really, really difficult.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right. As much as I loved it, and I still do, I was like, it's just not. I don't think Swing Juice the beverage is going to be what I envision it to be.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, you know what? I still love the brand name. I still love the idea of a golf brand name, Swing Juice. I'm like, it works everywhere I go. I talk about Swing Juice. It just
Hear it probably almost every time I play golf. There's someone makes a crack about it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a little swing juice going, maybe to like you have a couple bad shots or something like that.
Absolutely. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, all right, this is like already kind of part of the golf vernacular. Like, again,
part of the
this
culture,
is
yeah.
me talking to myself. I'm like, so I want to continue as a brand. At that time, I was like, all right, how do I continue this as a brand? And the one thing I'll say, like throughout the time of having Swing Juice the beverage, we had swingjuice.com, sold product on there, but didn't really sell any product there. And at that time, e-commerce wasn't really as what it is today.
Yeah.
But one thing I always sold was T-shirts. People would always buy a Swing Juice T-shirt. And I just had like
Oh,
basic
wow. Okay.
100% cotton T-shirts that I had boxes of, and people would buy a T-shirt, send a couple to Seattle, Washington, or Dallas, Texas, or somewhere USA. So I started thinking, I'm like, all right, let me see what the golf, because I buy golf apparel that I play. I buy all the different golf brands that are available, and I was looking around. I started like diving in, just casually into the golf apparel business. And again, I have no experience in golf apparel other than being a consumer. And I was like, you know what? There really isn't anything. Everything's kind of the same. You know, that was like my first assessment when I looked at it. I'm like, everything's the same. Like
Like
really
same
nothing.
boring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
boring. Like it's just nothing like super exciting. And I also was like, you know what? There's really no cool golf T-shirts. That was like my first thought. I'm like, there's no cool golf T-shirts. You know, it's like the only T-shirts I see are like the goofy ones you would get on like your birthday or Father's Day that you get from like Spencer's Gifts. It's some wildly inappropriate saying that you would never wear anywhere.
It's a one day
So,
only shirt.
I'm like, okay, let me start looking into what golf apparel looks like. And initially in my mind, I was like, okay, I just want to put out some cool golf T-shirts. I still have swingjuice.com. It's still operational. A friend of mine at the time I met with, we would meet all the time for coffee, just talk business. And so he happened to be a web developer. And I'm like, what would it take to like convert Swing Juice, the website I have now, into like a more e-commerce friendly platform? So to back up a little bit, during this time period, this is really, in my mind, when like social media and e-commerce were like meeting and like really starting to take, like people were like actually doing real business, you know, through social media and e-commerce. So I was thinking, all right, I have all this inventory of beverage that is like backbreaking to make. If I sell through that and reconfigure the website to be more e-commerce friendly, I'm like, T-shirts, all right, I can get a couple boxes of T-shirts and throw them in my basement, which I did. And I can print a few designs and see what happens. And that's really how I was formulating in my head. Like I didn't want to let go of it. So I'm like, the only way to continue it is try to change it up a little bit. The pivot. I wasn't thinking of this like massive pivot in my head at the time. It was more like, how do I keep this thing going? What's a good way to do that? And let's see where it goes. So it was literally February of 2014. I turned off the lights of the Swing Juice Beverage brand and turned it on to Swing Juice Golf Apparel and just kept my fingers crossed.
I have a quick question, and I think Bill needs to ask a question. But it was did you have investors in Swing Juice the Beverage?
No, it was like self-funded.
Okay, wow. So you bootstrap, and then so I guess that makes it easier to be able to make that decision to flip the lights off and on from one to the other.
Yes and no. Yes and no. It's still it's not like,
That was hours of sweat equity. That's not easy.
and it's not like
I know, but yeah, at least you're like, I don't know. When you raise money, that's a whole other. I feel like it's not. I'm not dismissing. I think it's amazing that you bootstrapped that. I'm just saying. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. So I was curious on that front. It's cool. And then you seem to have taken the same approach when you started the beverage with the apparel line. It's like, we're going to test this out small at first.
1,000%. And again, it was like at that time too, still like working and trying to like make this all happen. Like, so while I was pushing the beverage, that's what I was doing full time.
Right.
But then once the beverage started to wind down, I went into the apparel. I got a job, and I was like, all right, again, let me see if I can make this work. And I can honestly say the very first day, without any promotion, I sold a T-shirt.
Okay,
So
wow.
I immediately was like, all right, this higher power is telling me that this was the right decision to make.
That's giving you a little nudge.
So I went with it.
Yeah.
Little nudge, get you going, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And then you started with just one design, and it took off.
Yeah. So I actually started with 10 designs. So I had 10 original designs, and how I formulated the designs was, I said, all right, hey, what am I going to put on the T-shirt? I'm not going to just put golf on a T-shirt. So what I wanted to do was like recreate some of like my favorite things. That's how I looked at it. So I said, all right, I love golf, obviously. That's why I'm doing this. What else do I like? All right, I like hip hop. So let me see if I can incorporate golf and hip hop. Sounds weird, but at the time, but I'm like, hey, there's probably somebody else out there that likes the two. Those are two of their favorite things.
Oh yeah.
What else do I like? I like tacos. I'm a foodie, so I like food. All right, let me throw a taco on a T-shirt that's formulated in the style of a golfer. So I went through that whole process, and I put together like 10 designs. A handful of them are still our top sellers today.
Oh wow,
which is crazy. And that's really how I kicked it off. A handful of designs, and really started to push it through social media. That was really the only way.
T-shirts, right?
Just T-shirts.
Just T-shirts. Yeah.
For the first probably 3 years, it was just T-shirts, and then I started to add in like hats. I had a few hoodies before, but really started to lean into it. And then that really was the beginning of the apparel brand.
And when it was a beverage company, again, same thing, right? Just T-shirts that you had on the side. No other like sweatshirts, hats, anything like that, right? Yep.
Yeah, but and they were strictly promotional. These that I'd go to an event, I'd sample out product and throw out some T-shirts and hats. So there was more of like a marketing expense. It wasn't ever anything I looked at like, oh, this is going to be a revenue driver.
And you know what's funny is a lot of times right now what's happening is people are building a brand behind something and then they're adding a drink.
Correct.
You almost went in the reverse order.
Yeah.
Maybe
I went backwards.
in the coming years, see how things go. But there might be a chance you pivot back a little bit.
Bring the beverage back.
It's on the table. It's on the table. I've had a few conversations recently that.
Oh wow.
Okay.
But I don't want to say too much about it.
Yeah,
but,
I hear you. My wheels are turning. You know what I mean? So
welcome to my brain. That's how my brain is just constantly wired.
Yeah, I'm just
Well,
thinking of all
is it
these content creators who
Mhm.
just they built up their brand and then they come up with some whatever the drink is,
Paul and
Logan Paul, yeah.
Yeah.
rhymes, anything like that. But there's a ton of that. You've obviously got everyone trying to make their own tequila or something like that these
Yep.
days. But yeah, no. So I think I don't know. My wheels are turning for you as I'm thinking
Well,
about things.
good. Now you've entered my brain space. So thank
it
you.
could be less of a headache if you just maintain the brand and find someone that'll do all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. I've gone through that scenario too. Like I said,
license it out.
I've PTSD for so much of the beverage world, the time I was in it, but I probably would approach it differently now. But I didn't know any better at the time. It's like you have an idea, you add one and one, and you see how far you can continue to add these things and figure it out on the go and see what happens. But yeah, there could be new life in swing juice to beverage. We'll see what happens.
That's cool. Did you get investors for the apparel brand?
So I did. Yep.
Okay.
So that was with for the first like 5 years of the apparel, I could see it growing.
Okay.
And then again, I started to get the first hints of how it was with the beverage. I'm like, I cannot do this by myself. There's no way. I was literally, again, to bootstrap. I bought a printer. I was buying blanks. I was in the morning, I'd get orders throughout the day. Next morning, I would print out all the orders. I would package them
All yourself?
all myself. It was
Wow.
insane. It was probably harder than it was for the beverage because I was like, wow. So again, with the advent of how social media was working with e-commerce, like you get immediate feedback. I would drop somebody would buy product, and, I would get the feedback a week later, like, oh, you've sold 2 cases, we want to buy 2 more. I would never really know who bought it or how much they liked it.
Beverage is
Selling a
also
t-shirt
like
online.
B2B to C. Like you're not connected to the customer.
Correct.
Your
Correct.
customers
I was
are other
directly
businesses.
connected to the customer with t-shirts again, which was another thing I had learned like while developing this. So I had to get it right. I had to make sure the prints were right. I had to make sure it was shipped out on time. So it was like a real hustle, like every day. Bring 30 packages to the post office. Then after a while, the mailman would come to my house, or a mail carrier would come to my house, and I'd have a box of packages. Like, John, these going out? Yeah, these are going out. So like it was for like a good 2-3 years. It was that, and then finally got to a point where I was like,
Good Christmas gift for that guy that year, or what?
Yeah. Oh my god.
What's
That's
that?
a good Christmas gift for that mailman that
Oh,
year, or
yeah,
what?
yeah. I always tried to hook them up. So whether it be in gear or tips or whatever the case may be. I'll tell you one story though. Where really I knew I needed to take another step with this was. So I don't know if you guys remember. I'm trying to think the year. It was when Jordan Spieth won the Open Championship. I think it was 2015 or 16. I can't remember the year.
Okay.
Anyway, Jordan Spieth won the Open Championship. And again, I don't know if you guys are big golf fans or not, but I'm a golf nerd, so I watch every minute of every tournament. But so Jordan Spieth won the tournament. There was one hole in the tournament where he hit this like 60-foot putt, and he drained the putt, and the crowd's going crazy. And then so he's on the other side of the green where his caddy was. So he points once he made the putt. He pointed to his caddy and he said, "Go get that," like a cocky thing to say. It was cool, and like golf media went crazy for it. Like, oh, Jordan Spieth say, "Go get that." Da 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 da. I'm watching, I'm thinking, wow, that'd be a cool like moment to put on a t-shirt. So again, I have no licensing with Jordan Spieth or Under Armour, and so I was like, I'm just gonna put that on a t-shirt. So I call my designer. I'm like, dude, here's the idea. And I give him the idea. That's how I usually will work with or even now with our designers. Like I'll text them an idea, like I'll lay out exactly what I'm thinking, and then we go back and forth with different versions of. And then when we get to the one that's the closest to like what's in my head, then that's when we go to term with it. So did that with my designers on a Sunday night. Like, I just want to put this up there to say, I think this would be a cool shirt. Like everybody, like on Twitter, everyone was going nuts about this moment. And he goes on to win the Open Championship. So then Monday morning, I put it on the website. And then I threw it up on Instagram and put out all of my social media. And I had a meeting in Boston, went up to Boston. So I'm in my meeting, and then I see that Golf Digest picked up my T-shirt.
Oh.
And they put it like on their online publication. They tweeted about it and put it on Instagram. Jordan Spieth gets the T-shirt treatment. Da 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 da. And then my phone starts pinging, and I'm like, I'm in a meeting, and my phone is like, it's just progressively getting like more frequent, like ping, ping, like to the point where it was like a typewriter, like ping, like
Just like
Yeah.
just vibrating
I was
off the
like-
table.
yes. And I'm like, I gotta look at my phone, and I look at my phone, and I have like 400 orders.
Oh,
And I'm like,
wow.
Whoa. So I couldn't wait to get out of that meeting because I'm like, how am I going to, again, it was me and like a buddy, I think, that was like helping me. So I'm like, I get out of the meeting and I'm like, and it's just all day, all day, all day. Then all of a sudden, it is literally picked up everywhere, like Sports Illustrated, ESPN, like every single like publication that you can think of that would like be interested in golf flew it out there. All the golf magazines, all the golf. It went crazy. I think I sold like 1,800 shirts in like 36 hours.
Wow.
And I literally was like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, are you sitting on that inventory, or is that
No,
like
I did.
it's on-
So how I was operating back then, it was strictly on demand. So I would put an image up on the website. I would tweet about it, mailing list, the whole thing. And then I would just wait and see how many orders I would get. And then if I had enough, I would go to a printer and print them out, or I would print them out myself because I could do onesies, twosies.
Okay, yeah.
So then now I'm sitting on, after a couple of days, almost 2,000 T-shirt orders. And again, those were just orders. Those weren't just T-shirts. Like some people order in 5, some people order in 7 or 8. And so I was like, whoa. So the printer at the time that I was working with, I'm like, dude, I got to print like 1,000 T-shirts. Can you quote me for like 1,000 T-shirts? He's like, yeah, no problem. At that time, I was literally working with actually 2 screen printers, printing out a bunch myself just to like keep up, And it was absolutely crazy. So this is over the course of 3 days. Mm-hmm. On the 4th day, I get a barrage of emails and phone calls from lawyers.
Little I love you letter.
Yeah, sir, you can't sell Jordan's. So I got a letter from Jordan Spieth's team. I got a letter from Under Armour and somebody else, and they're like, you can't do that. You take it down within this many days.
Cease and desist.
Cease and desist. Or we're going to do this and this, the other thing with you. We'll shut you down, da-da-da. So I called my buddy who's my lawyer. I said, what do I do with this? I'm like, I want to keep it because it's kind of like a rush. It's like, wow, I can't believe this is like happening. He's like, just ship out your orders, take it off the website, and just be happy that it happened. You're not going to fight Under Armour. You're not going to fight Jordan Spieth's team. Just go. So yeah, that's what I did.
So you shut down.
You shut down
that one print. Yeah.
That one print. Yeah. Retired that print.
Wow.
But but that was truly the moment where I was like, yeah, I need some help here.
Now, if something like that happened today, would you be in a position to then reach out to say like their team or one of those things and get a licensing deal with them? Is that where the
that would be
involved?
like a good entryway to start a conversation, and I think now would be definitely we're definitely in a place where that could come to fruition. But it's interesting. Like I've had the same again early on. You're kind of like rogue and don't care, but like I had the same thing with like Augusta National. I put out Masters inspired gear. That was like one of the first collections I did, the T-shirts, and I think the first year I got a cease and desist from Augusta, and I was like, all right, I made it. I made it. So like, yeah, you can't print anything that says Augusta National. I'm like, all right, it doesn't say Augusta National, it says Augusta. So for like the first couple of years of doing that, like I was always trying to like, there are ways you can get around it. There are ways you can get around a trademark, like that.
Sure.
And so I always tried to skirt it, but I think I had a handful of letters from Augusta National, which again I think are a great souvenirs. So
Yeah.
had to navigate that. Not so much anymore, though. It's like you got to stay away from that, because out of any entity, they're the most seemingly the most protective of their trademarks, which is I agree with. I'm protective of our trademarks. It happens to us at times too. So,
Would you have done the same move with the Jordan Spieth story? Would you have done the same thing, like now looking back?
back then or now?
Like, if you could go back, knowing what you know now, and doing it, would you do it again? The same
1,000% would do it again.
1,000%.
1,000%. It was like, to me, it was like one of those steps. I say this a lot. Like when I've done a lot of like talks at local universities, so like marketing and business classes, and several people, that want to try to get into this or entrepreneurship. And the one thing I always say is that I always look back at moments. It's tough to see it in the moment, but it's like I always look back and I've either met the right person at the right time. I don't see it at that particular time. I always see it like looking backwards, because it helped spawn a new opportunity. Didn't know it at the time, but it did. Or I look back at moments and I say, okay, that was the moment where I made the decision to do X. I think even though it was chaotic, and from a business morality standpoint, probably shouldn't have done it. I 1,000% would do it again, because it brought out other opportunities. It brought more eyeballs onto the brand.
Yeah.
It didn't shut us down as a brand. We did at the time, I probably had 50 t-shirts for this one SKU. It was a really popular SKU, like for a short period of time. And it really opened my eyes of like what other opportunities could be out there. So yeah, for sure, I would do that again.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, and I imagine too, that's like $1 million worth of free marketing, right? Hitting Sports Illustrated and all those other publications.
All press is good press.
Definitely.
You could even afforded that type of press if you wanted to.
That was truly a viral moment. Like, and again, it was literally everywhere. I can't even. Like I just keep going back to that moment where my phone was like literally like you said, Justin, like vibrating on the table, like levitating on the table.
So that's my visual in my head. It's just flying up.
It was wild. It was like smoke was coming out of it. It was nuts. It was absolutely nuts.
And after that too, that's where you started developing, or not developing, but like just having more. So you go from all these T-shirts, then you're breaking out to all different, like you said, that's when you're going to hats,
so.
Hoodies, pullovers, everything, and
so it was a couple of years after that I hooked on with an investor group that helped me expand to more of what today. So again, my thought process was always to be a lifestyle brand, or that was even when I go back to the beverage. My goal in my head was, I'd like for this to be a lifestyle brand, not knowing what that meant or what that would look like. But I thought, I want this to be a lifestyle brand. Once I got to the place where I'm like, all right, I need additional help to like really scale this thing in the way I see that it can go. Hooked on with a private investor group. And from there, it was like, we sat down and said, okay, how can we expand the kind of our golf offering other than just T-shirts and hats? And so that's when we started to develop some performance gear and more of what today is that, and that really started to happen around 2018-19 to really move in that direction.
okay. And then so you obviously you do all that stuff. Now you've become like official licensed partners, right? With some USGA, you got the MLB Players Association. So what were those conversations like in establishing those relationships?
For me, one of the things that I always look back on that I feel like has been more of a strength for me in building what this is now is I've always networked. I've always been somebody, Justin, that's how we met.
Yep.
I've always gone to events to meet different types of people in the space, particularly in the space that I'm trying to be in. Over the years, there's a big trade show in Orlando for the golf industry, the PGA show. I exhibited there like my first year in the beverage. I got a booth and I just started meeting people. And then fast forward to now, we've exhibited a couple of times as an apparel brand, just constantly meeting people. And I think all of those relationships, whether it be the USGA, MLBPA, we had a licensing deal with Coors Light a few years ago. It all comes from just meeting, again, going back to I met the right people at the right time. and been fortunate enough to carry it through to fruition. And again, it also comes down to the people that you're talking to on the other end, particularly, I'm going to give USGA as an example. Do they even like your products? They get approached by every brand. I mean, they're one of the biggest brands in the game of golf, if not in sport, with U.S. Opens and all the championships that they run. Do they even like your product? Do they even like you? It's like you may have a great product, but if you're not somebody that's likable, then it doesn't go anywhere. So it's also some of that as well. So it's, again, developing relationships. To me, it always starts with the product. I think if the product is solid and you can navigate whatever hurdles that come your way from a business and partnership standpoint. And then from there, it's really working together with them to see what fits and where it can go.
Mm-hmm. How are those conversations? I'm going off the notes here, but like, how are those conversations? Like, as an entrepreneur, I feel like you always have to mitigate the downside, and like, how do you approach it when you're looking at expanding into a new piece of apparel or a new line?
Yeah, for me and for our team, it's more about, like, we don't want to bite off more than we can chew. It's very easy as an entrepreneur. You want to be everywhere all the time, and you want to build $1 billion company and just be. You want to move Nike off their pedestal. But again, that's always a thought process in the back of my mind. But then you have to look at reality. Like, what can we do? Like, what opportunity can we take advantage of right now that will show that we're working with a really big organization? And then in the conversations, talking with them, like, where do we want to be? Like, do we want to be the official clothing partner of a particular event? What does that look like? Because obviously it's more so than just having a good product and being a likable person. Potentially, there's a financial component too, and that doesn't always align. And we've had several conversations with sponsoring individual professional athletes, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Again, some athletes obviously command, because of their stature in their sport, a higher, dollar amount than some athletes that are on the way up. It's just trying to be, like, open, and it's also not promising too much to these organizations. It's very easy to say, oh yeah, we can be everything for you guys, and you turn around and you're like, actually, we can't be everything to you guys. So it's seeing to see where the best opportunities are that you can manage, and then see if you can grow from there.
In those conversations with those athletes, have any of them ever express interest in taking an equity position instead
I've had a couple over the years, and I won't name names, but where it didn't follow through was these particular athletes already had sponsorship deals with other apparel brands.
Oh, okay.
So another apparel brand, for example, would sponsor Athlete A. Athlete A would show interest in investing in our brand, but the sponsor
a nice check they were getting, they're
like, wait a minute, we're
conflicts,
paying you a crazy amount of money, and now you're going to go promote this other brand. So so that's where I got it. Active athletes, but we've had some conversations, but nothing has come to fruition. But it's interesting though, and I've noticed this over the last several years. Like, I feel like the landscape is changing. I feel like which could bring on new opportunities. I feel like some of these athletes are becoming so much more entrepreneurial than they ever have been. And I think a lot of that obviously is the way social media works nowadays.
Oh yeah.
It's very easy to reach an audience and or even just have an audience, but whether it be podcasting or just generally having a social media presence. Athletes are investing in other brands, and I think the larger brands are starting to look at it as an opportunity. Hey, maybe we allow this person to do this, and then maybe the brand that they build becomes something, and then we bring it into our ecosystem, and that's our R&D. We don't have to spend X to build up a new brand.
That's really
this
smart.
Athlete is built it themselves. Let's get involved. So it's definitely changing. So we'll see where it goes.
Cool. How have you structured? You might not even be able to say this, but like when you're doing a licensing deal, is it more of like a royalty on each shirt that is sold, or is it more of like an upfront cost and then maybe some back end Do you do, or do you do everything in between? Just depends on who you're working with.
It's a combination of everything. There's like an overall like royalty structure, but then there's also, if you work with an individual, you structure a separate deal with an individual. But then some of the larger organizations will have an overall royalty thing. But if you start doing different events, it's a different structure as well. So and what has been great is that the organizations have always, they want it to work for us too. They want to grow, help.
Not trying to squeeze you on everything.
I mean, it's what do they get out of squeezing a small brand? Yeah. They get more out of helping a smaller brand thrive versus trying to get a few extra points from a smaller player when they can get all the points from the big dogs. So it's a combination of ways to do it.
Yeah, interesting.
Is it? I would imagine. So the margins though have to be less if you're licensing or not.
Correct.
Licensing.
Correct.
Licensing.
Yeah. They're definitely baked in fees with every product. So that's why we try to have a blend of obviously selling our own brand. Licensing does give you the opportunity to get a lot more eyeballs and expand, which is really the beauty of it. So it's worth it. It's a cost of doing business. It's the marketing piece of it, and it lends credibility to what you're doing, which is always. And again, obviously been doing this for a long time, and I love our brand, but we're like virtually unknown the way I look at it. At least that's what I tell myself.
You treat every day as day one, then.
Yeah, so you have to.
Yeah.
It's like we're not Nike. We're not a household name. We don't have Michael Jordan on stuff, so we're not in the conversation every single day. So we have to. Not yet.
Someday, you're gonna write your version of Shoe Dog? I think.
Yes, I would love to do that. Yeah, it's really trying to truck along every day and see how much further we can get.
I think it's incredible that you've made it this far. I think recent statistics, researching it, is like. Everyone talks about the failure rate of when you're starting a business from zero, going to $1 million revenue. Like 50% only survive after 5 years.
Yeah.
70% fail within 10 years. So, you've navigated a business pivot. You've moved. How do you see that? Like, what is the thing that allows you to survive consistently?
Yeah, and again, I think about that a lot, and I think there's been several factors. I think one, to me, it shows the strength of the actual brand. The fact that this brand has been able to survive 20 plus years, 2 different iterations of it, through all sorts of other external factors in the world that none of us can control, whether it be the economy or there's a whole litany of things that factor a person's decision. It's a discretionary purchase. Like, I don't sell a commodity. Nobody needs to buy, what I've produced. Sure. So I think that's number one. I do think it's a testament to the strength of the overall brand of Swingers. Like it appeals to people, and I think part of it too is I look to myself. I've just been driven to do this, and my biggest supporter is my wife from day one. It's like, if I don't have that support, it's like, all right, it's
that's everything.
This is a good idea, but B, keep going, like, to see where it can go.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of this. There's a lot of ups and downs, more downs than ups in most cases. So having that like really strong support system has been key. And then for me, like currently, it's our team. Like, we have an amazing behind the scenes team that just makes it work. Again, I talked about learning the process of creating a beverage, getting the liquid in the bottle and what it takes to that. There is a process to take an order, and I lived it because I was doing it in my basement, literally packing orders, which was a disaster. But so to have a team that has put a plan in place and a structure in place and to execute it every single day is where I'm the most confident that I know that we could scale to unknown heights if we get the opportunity.
Yeah, I love hearing stuff like that, though. Just like that story about you having to pack all this stuff and doing it all yourself and things like that, because it just reminds me a time in my life when I started a business, and I was putting stuff out with my brother till like 4 in the morning, getting things going. And it's something that at the time was awful, but you look back at it and you're like, that was actually awesome, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, thank you. And listen, we're kindred spirits because it's one of those things. And again, when you sign up for entrepreneurship, the thought of it sounds fantastic. Like I can work for myself, I could be my own boss, yada yada yada. But then you don't really know the flip side, or you're not really taught the flip side, which is
They
like
sell you the dream.
you have to print your own labels, and then you have to pay your bills, and then you have to like, guess what? On the weekend, you're going to have to drive X amount of miles to do this presentation, or delivering packages at 4 packing packages at 4 in the morning. It's like all these other things that kind of have crept up over the years. But again, I think if you still are driven by your core belief and idea of what you have, it's not as bad as it may sound.
yeah.
Yeah, everyone's got on social media, especially. You're sold this like jet flying and lounging by the
Instantaneous
pool.
success. Yeah. it's
Overnight
just-
success, and the overnight success is that kills me. Is
Yeah.
a big company. It's an overnight success of 5 to 10 years.
Or 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
There's so many stories you read about. Again, this brand, a brand that's popular now, that's been in business for 50 years.
So,
Like Stanley,
this-
for
I
example.
Yes, Stanley.
Like Stanley cups is it's
Like 100
like
years.
Kids each have a dozen of them. For what reason, I have no idea. But like Stanley
Don't-
cups,
don't get
that's
me
been around
started
for
on
like
water bottles.
100 years. But
yeah,
they're popular now.
yeah.
It's crazy.
Incredible story. That's a perfect example. All right, we're almost out of time. Let's hit the rapid fire. You ready? The rules of the
let's do it.
game are you can pass. You can just pass.
No, let's
but-
do it. Let's rapid fire.
Oh, it's quick. Eric, you want to run us through it?
Yeah. Can I add one too?
Sure.
It's
yeah, as long
well,
as-
I was just wondering for people out there who are trying to be entrepreneurs, when does like the side hustle become the full-time thing? Obviously,
good
that's a massive risk in your life. Like,
Mhm.
what advice would you give people in that regard?
The way for me, it was literally to the point where it was a decision. Again, I was working full time and it was my side hustle, but I just became so obsessed with it. I just had to make a decision. And again, I was dating who's now my wife, and and depending on where you are in your life, you almost have to assess the risk. Like, if I for the next year do just this, will I regret it? If I leave the job that I have to focus on this, will I regret it? Will I ever get another job? So I think it's definitely more of like an internal personal feeling. And I personally got to the point in both cases, like the beverage and the apparel, where it became so busy and it became the only thing I could think about. Like I would be in a job or in a meeting for a job and just totally spaced. Like again, the Jordan Spieth example. My phone is levitating on the table, and I'm like, how can I focus on anything other than that? I don't even know what this person's saying to me right now. I just want to look at my
Right.
phone. So it's definitely a personal thing, and I think you just know. And you just have to decide, is it worth taking the leap? And again, it's not for everybody. I definitely don't want to sugarcoat like entrepreneurship, that it is like the magic key to unlock this like life of freedom and success. It is most certainly the opposite in a lot of cases. Like I've told this story a million times, but like I had every reason to quit. Like there was some like dark moments, and it can get there. But
Yeah.
if you really believe in what you're doing, I do think that you'll know when the right time is to take the leap, to say, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. And again, it all depends on where you are with your life, with personal life, family. Again, it may not be a right time for everybody, but I feel like at least for me, I feel like I knew when the right time was to take that leap.
That's great.
If you could go back and give your 20-year-old self one piece of advice, what would that be?
I definitely would say, and this is like super cliche, but like it's all going to work out. one way or the other. Like, it's very easy to get caught up in the fear of like the unknown. Like, oh, how is it? What if it fails, or what if I spend all my money, or what if I get sued by Augusta National? It's like, at the end of the day, like if you have enough, if you have enough like wherewithal or thought process to like even think up an idea, and then you're willing to take the next step, I would say go for it. You won't regret it. And I just think at the end of the day, if it does not work out, it's a complete, utter failure. Assuming you didn't do anything illegal, it'll all work out. It'll all work out. Like, you'll go back to having a nice life and doing all the things you wanted to do before. This won't be a part of it.
That's a good way to look at it.
How do you define wealth, and has that changed over time? How you define it?
It definitely has changed over time, I think, and a lot of it, and I'm sure you guys have experienced too. It's like, as an entrepreneur, you have an idea, and you immediately think, I'm going to sell it for $1 billion or billions of dollars. Like, this company just sold for $1 billion. It's similar to my idea. That company sold for $10 billion, 10 times what I want to sell it for. That's like your initial thought process. At least that was my initial thought process. As you're going along here, and you're starting to see bits of success, whether it be at the micro level or even just getting support from friends and family. And health is a big part of it too. Like, again, this is like a lot of the cliche sayings, but I truly believe health is wealth. Like, if you can't do these things if you're not healthy, or if you're not a healthy person. So I think a combination of all that, I definitely now look at it very differently. Having a good support system, friends, family, team, like our team. We may not sell our brand for $1 billion. We may not need to, but we have a great team that connects with customers, and we have a great support system for the brand. Like I mentioned before, I think the main reason why the brand is still viable today is because we've connected, or I've connected with our team, like into our customers. And I think, to me, like that, the wealth is in like that support and that community that you built. And again, it's hard for a young entrepreneur to say, hey, yeah, I'm going to be healthy in 20 years. I have this great idea, but it's more than just the one thing. It's more than just like the financial aspect, the thought of the financial aspect. There's a whole things that happen, and that along your journey too. Like you'll experience these things, and you'll say to yourself, like, oh yeah, man, I'm so glad I had my buddy Bill to help me pack these orders. Otherwise, 90% of these orders wouldn't get packed, and I'd have all these negative comments online and these bad reviews. Like, so it's, again, I connect the dots going backwards. So that's the stuff I've experienced.
What is one book that you've recommended people to read the most?
I would say the Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. Yeah, it was actually one of the first ones I read when I started the Beverage, and I actually met Malcolm Gladwell at a conference at Kiowa Island in South Carolina. And I went down there with a bunch of samples. And this is, again, very biased to Malcolm Gladwell because of this next little story. So where I was at an event, we were talking, and he's like, what do you do? So I'm like, oh, I created this product. He's like, what is it? I'm like, oh, it's a golf drink called Swing Juice. It's geared towards golfers, and it helps them with energy and all that. And he just looked at me and he goes, wow, I really like that. And I was like, yes, Malcolm Gladwell loves my ideas. So yeah, I've read all his books, but again, I always had that. Again, he's a very distinct looking guy. Just glasses. Wow, his hair's all over.
Yeah,
great.
Big eyes, right?
He was like generally like, wow, and he's not a golfer. He writes about like sports stories and all sorts of different businesses. But I just thought that was, at the time, I still think it's like really cool. It's like my cease and desist from Augusta. I think I was going to say,
do you have that thing on the wall somewhere?
It's getting framed. It is getting framed for sure.
Right. Nice.
Yep. 1,000% getting framed. But anyway, the Tipping Point. It's like one of my favorite reads of all time, and I constantly recommend it to anybody in like marketing or business capacity, because I do believe in all of the ideals of the book. I just think there's a lot to it.
I'm gonna have to
which
reread
I
it.
enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like all the stuff you learn from going through the beverage process and then transitioning like that, that was your 10,000 hours of training.
Correct.
Kind of like
Correct.
another Malcolm Gladwell. Like just, I don't know, just that
Yep.
that was where you were becoming an expert, right? By going
1,000%.
going through that fire there,
Yep. I was walking through the mud. That's for sure.
Jon, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're super busy, running a million directions, so we really appreciate it.
No,
Yes,
thank
Jon.
you guys. This has been great.
Best way for people to reach out, is it just swingjuice.com or any other channels you want to plug right now?
Yeah, so if you want to reach out to us on social media across every platform, it's at Swing Juice.
Okay.
So you can find us whichever platform you consume the most. We're there. You can reach me directly on Instagram, the Swing Juice Guy. So that would be me. Swingjuice.com, obviously, for everything Swing Juice. And yeah, just like I said, really appreciate the opportunity, guys. This has been great. And Justin, is fantastic to reconnect with you.
Yeah.
So excited to see what you're doing too.
No, it's a blast. We should grab drinks.
We should. I'll bring some of the samples. Like I said,
samples, I was gonna say.
I wouldn't recommend drinking the old samples, but there could be some new samples in the future. So,
Well, I mean, we're down in Providence, so I don't know. We'll find a time for sure.
yeah, absolutely, 1,000%.
Awesome. Thanks again, Jon.
Guys,
talk to you
thank
soon.
you.
All right, thank you.